In today's edition of the Daily Derp, we're bringing you the new news. Chicken farmers are facing calls of foul as they claim a mass disappearance of their poultry producers and egg prices rise. Meanwhile, from on high, a growing fear of the eye in the sky as more and more people are spawning balloons. Are they friends? Are they foes? Nobody knows, but it's pretty lame. And speaking of trains, these guys are off the chain. Rails, sorry. But more trains seem to be jumping the tracks, putting conspiracy theorists on the attack. It's good to know, though, that in these trying times, we can all unwind with the latest and greatest of Nomifactory EP009.
I hold in my hands an extremely powerful device. This one block is the key to almost unlimited power and infinite resources. But we haven't crafted this block yet, and that's our mission for today. So for right now, let's go back in time. Dang it, I hate when this happens. I know our world is a bit crazy right now, but don't pull a me and lose your sense of you. Get it? Because, I lost myself. Anyway, let's just get into it. First up, we need to craft a compacting drawer. This bad boy will allow us to store cobblestone with near quantum levels of efficiency. How, you ask? Well, it compresses the cobblestone, giving us 64 stacks of double compressed cobblestone. And each unit of that double compressed cobblestone represents a whopping 81 individual cobblestones. That's over 300,000 cobble in one spot. Can you say tons of storage? Because I can. Alright, moving on. We're going to make an LV robotic arm next. We'll need a bunch of LV motors, but it's a fairly simple recipe overall. This little guy will come in handy for crafting other machines and acting as a cover for controlling item movement between their inventories. And it's a pretty safe bet we're going to need more of these arms in the future, as it's not only needed for the reasons I've already given, but it's also a very common component in the bounty board that we found last time. Next up, we've got the robotic arm's twin brother, the LV pump. It's got a few new components we haven't seen before, such as rubber rings and rotors. We'll need a knife to cut the rubber rings and a hammer to craft the tin ring. The knife we'll need can be crafted using a stick and flint, like so. Then we just need some rubber sheets and we'll have our rubber rings. The rotor is a major pain at the moment though. Crafting these by hand takes plates, rods, and a tin ring. Roughly 6 ingots for a single rotor. Down the road, we'll be able to start making these at a cost of only 4 ingots each and in a fraction of the time. But that's another task for another day. Like the robotic arm we crafted a few moments ago, this subcomponent is also used as a cover for handling liquid logistics and also makes regular appearances on the bounty board. Combining all of these together, we now have our LV pump. And I'm not gonna lie, with each completed quest towards my goal today, I'm feeling pretty pumped up myself. Now that we have some of the subcomponents that I'm going to need for these upcoming machines, let's turn our attention to power. It's time to scale this up, boys and girls. Our current steam dynamos, while carrying us thus far, are only pushing around 40 RF per tick. And as we expand, that's just not going to keep up. But according to our trusty quest book, if we were to convert our 3 steam dynamos into a discrete boiler that feeds steam into 2 turbines, we will get a significant upgrade. Running these modified dynamos in tandem, we can produce up to 320 RF per tick per set of 3 augmented dynamos. And to make this happen, all we need are 3 thermal expansion upgrades, 2 turbines and a boiler. The turbines are fairly simple, requiring only a few components such as copper plates, iron ingots, and a redstone conductance coil. The boiler is pretty similar, but we'll swap out the conductance coil for a bucket, which is easy to craft, and a unit of fused quartz. Now the question is, how do we get that fancy quartz? Well, I'll tell you how. We're going to need an alloy smelter, we're going to need some nether quartz, and we're going to need a block mold, which is something we haven't made before. But don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Now to get the shape plate and the hammer to craft that block mold, I'm going to need some steel plates, a file, and a hammer. So let's get into this. Then if we take the empty shape plate and combine it again with the hammer, we'll get our block mold. Now all we got to do is throw everything together in the alloy smelter, and voila! Fused quartz. We need to get some golden rods going for those conductance coils. And to craft those iron gears, it'd be really easy if I had a couple of machines already unlocked, but that's going to happen down the road. For now, we're going to have to stick to the more rudimentary recipes. With all the subcomponents done, we can now successfully complete our turbine converter and our 2 boiler converters. With these shiny new upgrades in hand, it's time to get those same hands dirty and start pumping some real power into this place. We're talking hot, steamy power, the kind that'll make your hair stand on end. Basically what I'm saying is we need to go upgrade our dynamos. That means adding the turbine and boiler upgrades to each of them, so we'll start with the boiler and we will hook it back up to water. Now this will be the only dynamo that requires fuel, because it's going to heat up the water and turn it into steam. From there, we'll use fluid conduits to move the steam into each of the turbine upgraded dynamos. With that done, we are now pumping considerably more power into our system. And that means that it's time to move on to some new machines, as well as their related quests. So the first major machine I want to tackle today is the extractor. This baby's going to give us the ability to finally melt things down into liquid form. And let me tell you, this is going to be especially useful when combined with something like a fluid solidifier, as well as a few other machines. Now the recipe for this isn't too crazy, but we'll need to use our LV pump that we made earlier to get it done. We're also going to need an LV piston, which we've made plenty of, and our usual LV machine hull, along with a few circuits. With all the components gathered up, pop them in here, and we've got our extractor. For now, I'm going to go ahead and place it down by the mixer. But I have a lingering suspicion that we're going to need to rearrange some of these machines to get more optimal performance out of all of them later on, which means we're probably going to need to do another base expansion soon. But not today. Now, to make use of all those hot liquids that will be coming from the extractor, we'll need a new implement. It's time to embrace getting moldy. Just like the block mold we used to create our fused quartz earlier, we can once again combine an empty shape mold with the hammer to get a variety of different patterns. This time, it's a gear mold and a rotor mold that we're going to need to complete the quest. Now these babies will come in real handy in the future as well, because we can use them to craft these subcomponents via machine rather than by hand. I actually referenced both of these molds a bit earlier when I was talking about being able to craft the rotors and the gears more cheaply in the future. This is our first step towards that. Now that we've mastered molds, it's time to move on to dark steel. This recipe is by no means difficult. It's simply one steel with one obsidian in an alloy smelter. But if you haven't been farming obsidian, it could be a little bit annoying. Fortunately for me, I already have just enough for the quest. Though I gotta say, I'm definitely going to want to automate obsidian as soon as possible for future crafts. I think dark steel is one of those things that I'm going to need a ton of, and I don't want to go out and mine obsidian every single time I need some. So let's go ahead and throw our materials into the alloy smelter, push our little time travel button, and boom, we can mark this quest off the list. Next up, we've got pulsating dust, and this is a super essential material. We can use this to craft ender pearls, pulsating iron, pulsating meshes. It's very valuable. We want a bunch of this. I'll also be using it later on for crafting pulsing polymer clay, which is the foundation of our entire system for generating power and resources that I referenced at the beginning of the video. Unfortunately, I don't have access to uraninite ore right now, but luckily, Nami coins exist. And for the low price of 3 Nami nickels, we can get 32 uraninite. So let's cash those in. If I can only remember the order here. There we go. Now, with the ore in hand, we'll go ahead and pop this into our furnace for now, since I haven't set up any type of ore processing yet. I should probably take care of that soon. And that will give us uraninite dust, which, if we cycle that back through the furnace again, will yield us our pulsating dust. By completing this quest, we also knock out the pulsating iron and item conduits quest, since we already had those items prior. I love when we hit domino effects like this on quests and we just get to watch them chain complete. It's awesome to me. Alright, like I said earlier, we can even use the pulsating dust to make ender pearls, although that doesn't really seem like a good idea to me right now. Now let's go ahead and knock out the pulsating mesh quest. We can craft it by combining a carbon fiber mesh with our pulsating dust. To get the carbon fiber mesh, we'll need some string and coal dust in an alloy smelter, which should be pretty easy to obtain. There we go. Mesh in hand, we'll combine that with the pulsating dust to create the pulsating mesh, unlocking our goal of creating the simulation chamber from the Simulating Mobs quest. We're on the final step, boys and girls. The simulation chamber is a fantastic replacement for the traditional mob farm. It produces no lag, but still allows you to collect plenty of mob loot, and I absolutely love the concept behind this. To craft it, we'll need 3 circuits, 4 pulsating meshes, a glass pane, and a dark steel machine hull. We've made all of this before except for this machine hull, but it's nothing special. Just wrap 8 dark iron plates around an LV machine hull and we're good to go. Which we literally just did the dark steel quest, so we've got the ingots that we need. So let's get this done. There's our plates. There's our LV hull. And if we combine those two together, we have our dark steel machine hull. Sweet. Let's go ahead and grab our pulsating meshes. Throw those in with the circuits in the glass, and we're done. Mission accomplished. Now, if it's your first time using a simulation chamber, like it is for me, it may seem complex at first. I read through the entire guide, but it's actually quite straightforward once you start using it. We'll get into that in the next episode. What it yields for us, though, is the ability to make things like ender pearls, diamonds, blaze rods, and so much more. The first 2 items can even be used to set up an amazing power loop that's infinitely sustainable. So make sure you come back next time to see how we can get that started. We're going to keep it short and sweet today, though, so I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for choosing to spend some of your time hanging out with me today, and I hope you really did enjoy it. Let me know what you thought about the intro down in the comments. Do you want to see more of the Daily Derp? Did you know it was my son that did the voiceover for that? Also, did you happen to pause the video and read any of the articles on it? Check them out if you didn't. There's actual stories there. If you did enjoy any of this, by all means, show me some love with a like or a dislike. If you really want to help the channel grow, hit the sub button. There's also a Discord link in the description, and don't forget that I try to stream my progress in this pack every Saturday. So stop by and say hi over at Twitch TV/JDon77. Links also in the description. You guys take it easy. Laters.